This is my neighbor Scott, now my friend Scott. We've purchased property at just about the same time. I purchased 230 acres to the west of us, and he purchased over 300 acres on this side. And we were both pleasantly surprised to find that the other one was interested in wildlife and in waterfowl in particular. So I talked to Scott and said, could we do a pond on your place? And he said, it's a no-brainer. Have at it. So that's what we're going to do today. Is we're going to lay out a pond, where it's going to go, and then we'll go through the steps of producing that pond and building it. So we're looking over the property to see where the best place is to put a duck pond. And in the past years, I've built ponds on my property to the west of us. And last year we had thousands of ducks, so there's just no reason that this won't attract a lot of birds. Now Scott's walked out into the field, and he's out there in what is kind of a bowl. You can just barely see that it's a bowl out there, and it's not very deep, fairly shallow, meaning that we can probably, by putting a pretty short dike, we can probably flood an acre or two. So Scott and I are now going to walk around and take a look and make sure this is where we want the pond. In walking around this, we decided that it probably would be a good idea to hold back from the tree line a little bit. When you're hunting on this pond, you really don't want to be dropping your birds into the tops of those trees. So we'll probably hold back when we shoot the grades for this pond. We'll hold back 75 or 100 feet from that tree line. And you might take a shot of this ditch right here. This is a shallow drain. This was a grass field, and this was a shallow drain that water ran down from way out in the middle of the field, ran down during the winter. So we know we have a water source. We have sheet water too, but we know we have a water source that'll run early. In this test hole, which will give us an idea of what the soil's actually like in the field, and we've got some literature that points out what it's supposed to be, but this will be the truth is in the pudding, or mud. So I put some of this soil outside here, and we'll make this into a ball like this. Anything that you can make into a ball like that, believe me, it has lots of clay in it. And if you want to prove the point, wet your thumb and rub it, and you can see the shine. That's a for sure sign that it's got a high clay content. The book already told us that, but sometimes the book is general and doesn't necessarily relate to the specific spot. Okay, so this is the soil survey of Linn County area. It's put out by the U.S. Soil Conservation Service. It was put out years ago, and they must have, I guess, gone around the entire county and taken soil samples for depth, and it tells you what kind of soil you have and what the permeability is, which is really important to us because we want this pond to hold water. So the first thing we do is to find the map that has Scott's property on it. So this is Scott's property here and over here, and we are standing right about there, and it says that that's soil number 8. So we go back to the front of the book, And we look at what soil number 8 is, and it says it's Bashaw silty clay. This deep, poorly drained soil, slightly concave areas. Typically the surface layer is silty clay, 4 inches thick, and the next layer is black mottled clay about 32 inches thick. That tells us we probably will have no problem in holding water in this pond, almost no matter how we build it. And then we go to the next table, which shows let's see, I'm on the wrong page. We go to Bashaw soil number 8, and it says that the top 4 inches is 50 to 60% clay and has a permeability rate of less than 0.06 inches per hour. Below the 4 inches, all the way down to 60 inches, is 55 to 70% clay, and once again, virtually zero permeability. It's less than 0.06. So this clay is going to be just right, and this pond's going to hold water, no problem. On the tops of the dikes, we're going to plant a mixture of colonial bent grass, annual ryegrass, and annual ryegrass to grow really quickly. The colonial bent will come in and fill in. We'll put some manna grass in there and probably some water foxtail in there. So over a period of years, the annual ryegrass pretty much disappears. And these others all make a mat on top of the dike so that you don't have the mud on your boots every time you walk through it.
Yeah. And do you find that seals in the top of your, does it help stop the erosion on top
Completely,
of your dike?
yes.
So it's pretty well seals them up and
Pretty well
stops
sealed.
erosion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're ready to shoot some grades. Okay, so we set up our laser level. This has a receiving unit on it that beeps when this laser, which goes out absolutely straight, about 800 feet. Now, in this particular case, it beeped at 5 feet, and that's only a relative point. That means that this transit is 5 feet off the ground. We're going to lower this down to 3 feet off the ground, and we're going to make that'll be the edge of our lake. That will mean that there's 2 feet of water here, and there'll be 0 feet of water along the edge of the lake if we lower this down to 3 feet. So we'll take all the rest of the shots using this transit at 3 feet. Just like that. So we have this transit now set. The stick is set at 3 feet. And so if I put it here and it beeps, which it does, it means that this is the edge of the water. The water is at 0 right here, and it's 2 feet deep at where we started. Scott's going to flag this mark so that it'll become where we start our dike for our pond. Okay, so now we're going to walk the perimeter of the pond. Okay, put another flag in there, Scott. This is our second reading of where the water, when that pond is full, this will be the edge of the water. When I'm tipping this, I'm actually putting the receiver for the laser a little bit lower, which then tells me I have to go in a little farther to get the level. We're really close. Okay, right there. Don't try this out. This is just a rough edge that we're shooting. It's not written in stone yet, not until I start the dozer. And then it's written in dirt. Okay, we're good right there. Here's where we're going to start hanging back from the trees a little bit. And this is actually low all along here, so we're going to need some dike all along the edge of the trees. It won't be as high as in the lowest spot, but there will be some, and we'll measure that here. Okay, good right there. Tailwater of our pond, our shallowest part of our pond, is right where we just shot. That's going to be also shallowest part. Scott's going to mark that with a 0. That's basically no dike right there. It's strictly a water level. And we're doing this, somewhere around 50 to 75 feet apart. Like. So now it's starting to drop off a little bit. And so we're actually going to need a dike here. It doesn't have to be very high, but we're going to need, the water level is going to be 8 inches higher, which by the way means we're going to do a 20-inch dike here because we're going to make it 1 foot higher than the water level. Okay, so this one is reading at 4 feet 1 inch. So we are going to need 11 inches of dike plus, which is what Scott will put on there. I'll allow for the other foot when I do the dozer. So you'll just put 11 inches down there. This dike's going to be 11 inches plus a foot for extra. .5 inches. Just call it 16 is fine. 16 inches, and then I'll say again that I'll put a foot extra on top. But also the water then will be 16 inches, which is easy walking for us old guys. Well, I'm older than he is. So. All right, should be back. We're back at go. Well, now we're back where we started, and we're good, and we can stand here and take a look at that pond. My thought is that we may want to make it just a little bigger than that. Well, maybe not. I forgot. I wasn't looking at that. What do you think, Scott?
Tell you what I think.
It's about 1.5 acres now.
Okay, here's my thoughts, Dave, and you jump in here if you think I'm wrong thinking. If this was my only duck pond, I might want it bigger so I could have more food in my pond. Considering I'm going to have more ponds here,
Yes.
it's very aggravating to sit in your pond and have all the ducks like just down there out of range. So if you will limit the size of your pond a little bit, at least with this size of pond, they are going to at one time make a swing close enough to shoot at them.
That's good sound thinking, and I'm going to say this, it looks to me to be about 1.5 acre pond, which is absolutely, it's just about right.
Yeah, that's going to put a
Yeah.
ton and a half of feed in here, ton and a half feed times 16 divided by 120 days divided by 4.5, and it tells you how many ducks you can feed all year long.
Okay, so we're good to that point. We're going to do a little test here in just a second. I'll set it up in just a minute. And for the person who does not have a laser level or a transit level, we're going to do one where you can use a carpenter's level and basically do the same thing. Not quite as accurately maybe, but close enough for duck work. So give me a minute to set that up and we'll do that. We're going to show you how you can do this with a carpenter's level should you not have access to a regular transit level. You shim this until it's absolutely level, the bubbles completely level. You ready? We'll take a reading on this level right to the very top edge of it, which is 38 inches. Check that bubble and make sure it's still straight. Scott is standing out there with another tape measure, and I'm going to sight down this level. Move over that way a bit.
Yep.
Right there. That's good. Okay, run your finger down a hair, up a hair. Okay, right there.
Mark that.
Yep. What do you have?
31 7/8.
Okay. We're going to call that 32 inches that Scott has marked that I looked down this level. And level from here to there is 32 inches. Right here, the level was 38 inches. So we have 6 inches of rise between where we are and where Scott is. And you can take this level and you can turn it around just the way that we did with the transit. And one person can walk around the perimeter moving this tape and using their finger up and down. And you can get a pretty darn accurate reading to get the perimeter of your pond. So the next step, getting ready to do these ponds, is to run a perimeter cut around the outside edges of the ponds. It won't be very deep, but it'll give us an idea of being able to look at those ponds and see the dirt. We'll be able to see what kind of dirt is out there. Pretty much we're looking at clay soil like this. So that's what I'm going to do now. Three most important components to a good duck hunting spot are water, feed, and a good place to hide. We're going to capture the water, plant the feed that the ducks love, and build a comfortable duck blind to hide in. There are lots of different food crops we could plant. We're building this new pond in August. It's too late to get a crop for this fall. So we've chosen River Refuge seeds, mix number 2. Mix can be planted in the fall. The slough grass will sprout, the smartweed and the wild millet will lay dormant in the submerged soil and will sprout next spring.
Just like this.
Angling the dozer blade and tilting it slightly, I go around and around, scraping the straw and dead grass off the area where the new dike will be. If the straw were left under the dike, this could cause the water to wick out of the pond and for the pond to leak. So our soil will say that this would be partially clay down about 4 inches and then 4 inches to 60 inches high percentage clay. This right here is a high percentage of clay. This is what I found when I got down a little more than 4 inches, but regardless, this stuff you could build a house out of adobe with this. I then doze around and around with the blades severely angled and severely tilted. I do this to move the topsoil to the outside of the new dike. In this case, the topsoil is about 50% clay. I will keep stripping the topsoil, which exposes more and more of the heavy 70% clay. I then doze the clay onto the inside and top of the dike. I'll try to place a layer of clay 10 inches to 12 inches thick on the inside of the dike. I make sure the clay on the side attaches to and is continuous with the exposed clay on the bottom of the pond. When finished, your pond is much like a bowl. It's important to be able to empty this pond in the spring. This encourages the seed we planted in the fall to sprout. We've installed a 20-foot length of 4-inch ABS pipe, and we put a 90-degree elbow on that with a short piece of pipe on the outside. Don't glue this elbow, instead drive a T-post against it. This allows you to adjust your pond level by tipping the pipe. So we're now at a stage where we've pushed the dirt up, we've pushed the clay up, and the dike is approximately where it should be. The next step is going to be to take the dozer around and walk this in and compact it. We'll do that 3 or 4 times with the dozer, and then we'll also take the dozer and run the side hill on the inside of the dike, again compacting it. Before we do any of that, we're going to set up the transit again, and we're going to take a shot with the transit at the water level and where the top of the dike is, and we'll carry the transit around and we'll make sure that we are on a good level plane on the top of the dike. It appears so just looking at it, but sometimes there's little low spots or high spots, and now's the time when we can fix those. Now we're going to take this and turn on our indicator. As you can see, it makes a beeping noise when it hits the indicator. It tells us how high this is. So we're going to take this out and check where the water level is going to be where we anticipate it, and then we'll check the top of the dike to make sure it's high enough. Okay, so this is where the water level is anticipated. The water will be about 2 feet deep out at the edge of the dike, and the water level will be basically zero here. This will be the edge of the lake. So we want to take a shot here. Okay, and that shows us that the water level is going to be at 4'6" on the transit. The water level will be at that same height against the dike. So we want that dike to be 1 foot higher than the water level. So we're going to set the transit at 3'6". And now I'll take it up on top of the dike and we'll double check to make sure that it's the right height. So now we're going to walk the new dike using the stick with the activator, and we'll see if our dike's high enough. Okay, so that's exactly the right height, and now I'm going to do this about every 50 or 100 feet all the way around the dike. Okay, so it looks great. This dike, it indicates that the dike is at least a foot, sometimes just a little bit more than a foot higher than the water level would be. I'm going to set this gauge back to where our water level was. Put it down on the side of the dike. And that indicates this is the same setting that we had when we did the edge of the pond. And now you can see that the water level on the dike is going to be just about a foot below the top of the dike when the pond's full. And this water level is the same water level as the edge of the pond that we first shot. I'm getting ready to walk the top of the dike with the dozer. That'll walk it in or compact it. At the same time, any little high spots, I'll have a chance to kind of take those down, and any low spots, I'll be able to push a little extra soil in. This will mostly compact the dike, and it'll be ready for the next step. Scott is going to use his tractor with a small disc to work up the soil in the bottom of the pond. He then uses a box scraper with adjustable tines to smooth and ready the soil before planting. When the field prep is done, Scott uses a spin spreader to broadcast the seed. He's chosen River Refuge seed mix number 2. This has American slewgrass, wild millet, and smartweed seed. The hunting pond is complete. With the first fall rains, the American slewgrass seed in our mix will sprout and make small plants. The pond will be kept full for the hunting season and on into the spring. The water will be removed in late April. At that time, the smartweed and the wild millet will sprout. All 3 species of these plants will mature and produce tons of seed for the next duck season. Scott has installed a nice, comfortable duck blind. Next spring, we will plant Sudan grass around it to make it blend in. This is a duck's eye view of the new pond in December. Scott will plant Sudan grass and poco barley in the fields adjacent to the pond next spring. Ducks will land in the pond and work their way out in the fields to feed. This hunting pond was created with just over 8 hours of dozer time.